everyone, welcome back to the Eden Room. And today we are very blessed to be chatting with our parenting and teen coach in the Eden Room, which is such an honor and a joy every single time. And I have to say, even if you're not a parent, these calls with the incredible best-selling author Cais, best-selling author of the Teen Toolbox, always help me and always give me tools to manage my anxiety. And to be stepping more and more into myself. I'd just seen her there. She flashed up and then she disappeared. Cais, try that again, whatever you just did. And she'll be joining us any second. So please say hi if you're with us or if you're watching this on the replay. Hi, see you. Welcome back. Cais, feel free to jump back in. You were there and then you weren't there, so I don't know where you went to. We are talking today about silencing the inner critic. So that is the unhelpful voice that tells you you can't, you shouldn't, who do you think you are, you're not enough, you haven't got what it takes, you're out of your depth. Hey Fiona, lovely to have you with us. Thanks for being here. And you know what? Tell me in the comments, what are some of the things that your inner critic says to you? Because when you start to recognize that voice, you can identify it and not think it's the truth. Because there's a big world of difference between the way that your inner critic speaks to you and, for example, the way your higher self speaks to you. And today, Cais is going to share with us how we can actually silence that inner critic. So I'm just bringing. So happy to bring you in, Cais, and we're just adding you, and it's connected, and there you are. I love it when a plan comes together. That's it. We need to slightly tilt your camera down, and maybe you need to slightly tilt mine up. There we go. Hi everyone. Here's the amazing Cais. Cais, I just was thinking about a Maya Angelou quote as you were coming on, and have you heard it? It says, "I belong every place. I belong no place. I belong to myself." And I was thinking, that's a very Cais Graham quote for some reason. I was just feeling that kind of imposter syndrome, inner critic, that fearful inner voice that kind of tells us we don't belong anywhere, that we're not spiritual enough, we're not holistic enough, we're not slim enough, we're not rich enough, we're not clever enough, we're not professional enough, all the things. And that's what we're talking about today, isn't it?
And I call myself the Queen of Quotes, and I haven't even heard that one. So, oh my.
Isn't it a lovely one? She says, "You are only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place, no place at all. The price is high, the reward is great." It was in an interview. And then the interviewer said, "Do you belong anywhere?" And she said, "I haven't yet." And then he said, "Do you belong to anyone?" And she said, "More and more, I belong to myself. I'm very proud of that. I'm very concerned about how I look at Maya. I like Maya very much." And I think that's what we're getting to here, isn't it? It's like, who do we become when we actually silence that voice of that inner critic? So this is such an important topic today. Let's start off with, how do you see that voice, that inner voice, that silent critic chuntering away? How do you see that affecting children and even parents? And how does that show up in their lives and hold them back?
Who do you think you are to say? Who do you think you are even to ask that? Why should I listen to you? Why should I listen to myself? Those people know more than me. I'm to this, I'm to that. I've got to go back to school and I've got half a stone of lockdown weight. I've got to do this. I've got to go back into work. I must do this. Why do you even think that people are interested in what you've got to say? Oh my goodness, for goodness sake. And how debilitating is that? And how the thing is that we hear this the whole time, and if we're not careful, it is a soundtrack in our head that we sort of forget is there, we sort of forget it's not true, and we believe it, and it's just that dialogue that is permanently there. And it's a matter of trying to shift that. And I think the very, very first thing is, before we do anything else, is to recognize it and to sit with it and go, oh, there it is again. Oh yeah, there we are. And I will be sharing lots of different examples and lots of different tools how to deal with it. But when I'm speaking to kids, and you adults will relate to this, so I'm just going to keep it simple. I talk about the Moaning Myrtle in our head, and if anyone is a Harry Potter fan, or you might not be a fan but you've had to watch it because of the kids or whatever, Moaning Myrtle is a little ghost that sits in the loos, and all she does is look at the negativity, and she just keeps on moaning on and on and on, and we just sort of, it's that negativity and that the who do you think you are, what, you know, what ifs and everything, and when I sort of say to kids, oh my gosh, have you got Moaning Myrtle? And they go, oh yeah, okay. And I think the thing is, what we have to remember, our brains haven't really evolved terribly much. Our understanding of them has, and thanks to MRI scans and everything, we understand a bit more about what makes us tick. But the brain itself, since caveman time, hasn't really developed, and we have to remember that its purpose is to keep us safe, and the purpose is to stop us feeling uncomfortable. So this little voice in our head is trying to protect us from, don't do that because otherwise you're going to make a fool of yourself. Don't do that because otherwise someone will judge you. Don't do that. I mean, you know, and it's keeping us to play small, which is fine and incredibly boring, and we don't need that. And as Maya Angelou was saying, you know, it is looking in the mirror and actually being okay with who you see, and saying to Moaning Myrtle, okay, thanks for that. Right, I know why you're here now. I know that you're trying to protect me from all this rubbish, but actually I've got this.
Yeah.
And so we're going to turn that around and see how we can convince ourselves that despite all our hang-ups and misgivings and imperfections, we're actually pretty lovely and we're pretty cool. And it's when you sort of look at, I mean, I'm looking at myself here seriously and going, oh my god, look at that head of hair woman.
I know, I'm thinking the same. Oh my god, my hair, we've all got the lockdown barnet going.
And so, but actually with any luck, you know, now everyone's looking at my hair, all right, yeah, she should have put a comb through it. Well, she tried. But the thing is what we have to remember, it's not about me. It's not about, I'm afraid to say, you. It's just, I think we need to come from a place of self-love and say, do you know what, if I can't even be nice to myself, how on earth am I portraying myself to someone else? And if you're a mum who's sort of going, does my bum look big in this? Or, oh, I've got awful hair, or I've had a bad day, nah. What sort, if you just stopped and looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, oh my god, that's what my kids do.
And would you want your daughter to talk to herself like that? And would you ever, you know, would you want them to internalize your inner monologue? Let's just dive into that a little bit deeper, because I mean, I've currently got a situation going on with my middle child, and I'm happy to sort of share a little bit about it, where I feel like his inner critic is really strong. And I don't know whether are certain children more prone to having a negative inner voice, and I find that he's actually supremely talented. Like, he's highly creative, he's sensitive, and he's very talented. He doesn't necessarily do as well at school as like his big brother. He doesn't fit the mold in quite the same way, but he's so talented, and he'll just draw for hours. But his inner voice, as he's getting older, he's 7 now, and I hear him, you know, he started saying things out loud now, like, oh well, I'm an idiot, or I'm stupid, or I'm fat. And I say, you're not fat, you just put some weight on over lockdown, like loads of people have. And I just try to normalize it. But I feel like I get it as an adult. We can take responsibility for that narrative. We can recognize that's not the truth. We can recognize, look, if I can't speak nicely to myself, how can I expect myself to speak nicely to others, or how can I expect others to speak nicely to me? But for a 7-year-old, how would we go about communicating this to our children so that they can get in the habit and nip that in the bud, hopefully, before it becomes an issue?
It's getting them to realize that, yes, there is a voice in their head. And I don't mean schizophrenia, so let's just get that, you know, I'm not medically trained, so let's just get that out of the way. But it's that little voice in their head, that narrative that is going on. But it is getting them to accept that that is there and moving on regardless. It is getting them to understand all about Moaning Myrtle, and it is getting them to understand that this little voice actually is not going to go away. So, you know, if we manage to sort of get them to sort of try and la 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 la, I'm not going to listen. Well, actually, do you know what? It's going to come back in another shape or form. But it's just sort of giving them the tools to say, well, let's challenge that. You know, and it's okay, let's sort of, oh, well, I'm rubbish at this, or my brother's better at me than this. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I am always a glass half full. So I look at a negative and I always try and turn it into a positive. But if I can't, I turn it into a neutral. So, you know, my son, he's in London now, and he's sort of looking for the job, doing job hunting. And it's soul destroying.
Not an easy time to be job hunting in London.
No. And I could sort of go, keep going. I'm right behind you. Have you tried this? And he's probably going, oh, for God's sake, yes, 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 thanks. You're my mum. And so I sort of, you know, he sort of said, well, I'm doing more for the job hunting. And I sort of said, well, anything, you know, if there's anything I can do, give me a shout. But I said, well done, because you're taking another positive step. And his response was, well, yes, that's the plan. So I thought, do you know what? He's wavering here. And I went, at least you've got a plan, mate. And the thing is that, yeah, okay, it's not rainbows and unicorns, but at least it's a step in the right direction. So, you know, it is, I look at, let's turn that negative into a neutral and into a positive. That journey can be rapid, or that journey can take time, but it's a matter of, you know, let's use the weight, for example. Well, you know, I'm so fat or whatever, is, well, hang on a minute, we can change that. But all right, let's acknowledge this sort of situation. But I tell you what, love, you are fit and you are healthy. So let us make the most of that. Let us embrace that. You are this, you know, this, I always say to kids and adults, we have to embrace the messiness of you. And so I am embracing this. And I know that
I love that. Embrace the messiness of you.
Because we're not,
especially now, because we're all in this transformational time as well. I don't think life's ever been messier for any of us, has it? You know, we've all had to move into this quite liminal space where such a lot of things have, so much has fallen away and so much has arrived, and we're still metabolizing those shifts, it feels.
And I think if we use sort of weight for an example, your son has acknowledged that there is something about it. Now, if the pain is so great, it will probably drive him to do something about it. But let's look at it in a different way. Rather than moving from a point of fear, let's move from a point of love. And so it's okay, well, do I want to do something about it? You know, some people are sort of, do you know what, I've just gained an extra stone or half stone or whatever. Well, do you want to sort of go and exercise 3 times a week? God, no. You know, and then, okay, so are you accepting of the situation? Yeah, do you know what? It'll come off in time, and we don't have to say, right, let's have a regime and let's do this. Do we have to do all that? Do we have to go down there? Well, let's get you a personal trainer. Let's go on a gym. We don't have to do all that. I mean, I'm sort of sitting here, we've been using weight and hair. I'm sort of sitting here and thinking, well, do you know what? It'll be better this time next week. So am I comfortable with it? Yeah. The thing is, we're all in the blimmin' same boat. So why on earth are we sort of imprinting what society has, you know, sort of, and it's not even just society, it's the high expectations we have of ourselves that aren't very kind. And we just need to just stop that negative thinking. And the thing is, and I do a little exercise with kids, like, who do you think you are? And it's okay. And it's for every negative, every negative thought we put in our heads, we should be counterbalancing that with 3 positives. So, okay, well, you who the hell do you think you are, Kai, with your hair like that? You look like a witch. Right, okay, well, thanks for that. Well, who do I think I am? Who am I? Well, I'm sort of spreading the word with people here. I'm quite good at that. I'm quite good at sort of Facebook Lives. I'm a pretty good mum. I'm absolutely thrilled that I haven't had my nails done, because my nails are absolutely thriving. I mean, let's look at things and let's look at the positives, and let's just sort of realize is that sometimes we hold that mirror up to ourselves and we don't like it, and other times we just, I tell you what, let's do the neutral and let's just accept and have that sort of messiness all around. Because as you so rightly say, Sir Kat, when we're talking to our kids, we don't want them to hear our inner dialogue. And sometimes, here's the mirror thing, we actually hear our dialogue coming out in our kids, and that can be a bit scary because we sort of go, oh flip, right, I didn't realize that's the way I'm portraying myself. And so as role models, we need to be kinder to ourselves as well.
Yeah, because they're so fluid. But I notice with my daughter, if she's in the park and she gets frustrated and she goes, I can't do it, and I think, oh God, I really recognize that. But then I'll just say, you can do it, you can, try it again, you can do it. And then I hear her go, I can do it. And she's so quick to just...
Exactly. And it's switching things around. The word I use is yet. So I can't do it yet. And I'm really bad at this. Yeah, at the minute. And so it's a matter of just changing that. Well, I can't do something, but I think I can actually. I think, you know, it's just acknowledging that, you know, we always strive for that perfection. We always strive to get things right. And you know, I remember my kids are so different. When you're sort of saying, oh, does one have an inner critic and another, you know, some people say
like a more negative orientation. Is that a thing?
There's a lot of research about it. The jury is out for me, because I look at you know, sort of some kid, you say it's your middle child that sort of has that sort of more inner critic. A lot of people say it's the first child because they're breaking the mold. I have a great inner critic trying to shut her up, but there you are. And I remember when my kids both started golf together, and they don't play, but you know, it was one of these tiger mum, throw everything at them, you know, try and give them as much and something will stick. And I remember they sort of, at the golf club, they sort of went out and they go out with different parents, and because woe betide you go out with your own parent, because you know that's a recipe for disaster. And one mum went out with both Jack and Alice. I think they were literally 5 and 7 at the time. Wow. And so they had their little sticks and they were sort of hacking up the course. And they got to the end of the first hole. I bless this mother, she's got the patience of a saint. And she, you know, so I think they only did 5 holes, but it was a long afternoon for this mum, because she came up and she said, your kids are so different. And I went, yeah, tell me more. And she said Alice got to she's finally sunk her putt, and she came in with a score of 21. And she sort of said, and Alice said to this mum, she said, oh my goodness, this is so much fun, let's see if I can get in the teens next time. And the mum was sort of like, oh, for flip's sake. And then but Jack, he sort of sunk his putt after 15 or something, and he went, I'm rubbish at this, I'm not going to play this game ever again, because I'm just rubbish and I can't do it. Yeah. Both of them, it was their first time playing. And so I think the thing is, we have to learn from our kids is, what's the dialogue that they are saying to themselves, and what is it, how can we sort of swap it around? So it's teaching, you know, for Jack, it's a teaching of, you can't do it yet, you know, as I sort of say, you know, you can't ride your bike as the first time you get onto it, you know, look how you now tie your shoelaces. And it's putting things into context to show children all about themselves and how they can learn. Because I think the thing is, there's a big difference between confidence and self-worth. And confidence is all about your ability to do something, and self-worth is all about who you think you are as a person. So Alice looked at the golf sort of going, well, okay, I can't do it yet, but I'm going to get better. And there was the confidence with her. But Jack put his failures as a reflection on who he was as a person. And so we have to change for kids to sort of say, you know, what you are achieving and what you are doing in life, it can always be improved upon, because you just practice and you just get better. And if you don't like it, you don't blimmin' have to do it. If you don't like golf, love, you can go and try something else, which he did. But I think the thing is, you know, that confidence is very different to self-worth, and we have to extrapolate that for kids and go, well, just because you don't feel that great doesn't mean you're rubbish, doesn't mean you're fit, doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that you are embracing the messiness of you. And is it something you want to improve on? Well, yeah, I would like to be better at that. Or no, do you know what? No, it doesn't really float my boat. Okay, well, let's find something else that brings you joy, because that's what it's all about. Life is all about joy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. So why keep on having that moaning myrtle in our head, making us feel rubbish?
Yeah, and I think this is something. When I was a child, I wanted to play guitar, you know, and I had such a strong inner critic, because my dad would, as you say, you should never do a lesson on anything with your parents. It's like learning to drive. You wouldn't want to teach your own kids golf, as you say. I just remember I did classical guitar lessons, but I always had this voice. I just really wanted to play chords, and I never found that teacher that would just sit down and show me some chords. But I've just got Duke a keyboard, and he's having his first music lesson tonight. And as we're talking, I'm thinking, I know that voice is going to come up for him the same way it did for me. And those limiting beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecy. And I was thinking where this ties into our destiny and our dreams, because, you know, I, as a child, wanted to play guitar. And as an adult, I wish I'd carried on playing guitar. And so as we look at those timelines, I suppose as parents, we're always wanting to give the things to our children that we never had. And most of us are very fortunate that we had a roof over our head and we had food on the table. So then it becomes about what's the richness of life, the skills that we might develop as a being that at 50 or 60 or 40 or 30 are not as easy. You know, it's not as easy to maybe pick up a language or an instrument. Yeah. And as Duke's got his first lesson time, I'm just wondering if you've got any tips of what I could say before his lesson that would just help him to maybe go that little bit longer without calling himself a failure. Because I know that he had, like Jack, he has a tendency to go there. That would be his first place to go to.
Well, Jack had exactly the same sort of situation. He was learning the piano, and he had very different motivators to his teacher. And so it's, you know, Jack just wanted to play the piano. He had visions of him sort of, you know, one day just sort of sitting down at, be it in a pub or wherever, and just tickling the ivories, and everyone going, oh my God. And that's all he wanted to do.
I love that.
His teacher wanted him to do grade 1 so that he could improve to grade 2, so he could practice his theory and go on to grade 3. And so there the twain should meet. And sadly, Jack was unable to hush that opinion of the teacher. Now, we tried to get him different ones, but by then it was too late. I would very much say, what do you want to gain from this? Do you want to learn how to play tunes? Do you want to be a concert pianist? Don't be so silly, Mum. You know, I don't even know what one of those is. But it's what, you know, and I think it's the sort of encouraging the, you're going to love this because you are so creative, and you do know that, you know, find a task that he's particularly good at the minute, and sort of go, and let's say drawing, let's say he's fabulous. Is this the young one that was good at drawing? Yeah.
So good.
Do you remember when you started out? And I loved all your drawings, and I still do, but do you remember when you were little, they were a little bit scribbly? And he'll, yeah. And it's, but look how you've developed, because you just practiced and you made mistakes and it didn't bother you. And you suddenly realize that actually you prefer using crayons rather than pencils or biros. And now you know, and the very fact that you're so good at this, you know, you could use paint if you wanted to, or now you've used paint, you could go and use clay. And look how cool that is, because that's allowing you the opportunity just to try stuff and see if you like it. And that's what you did when you were just scribbling. And now you are so good at what you're doing, but that took practice. So remember that when you're going to do this, you're not going to be, or not, you know, you're not going to be as good as you hope to be, rather than you're going to be rubbish at it. But it's a matter of just sort of saying, you know, and find out, maybe use a, I don't know, one of the musicians who's like, I was going to sort of use Beethoven, but he'd probably go, really? You know, so it's sort of, because I sort of always say, do you want to be a concert pianist? You know, Rachmaninoff and Beethoven didn't start writing a concerto overnight or a symphony overnight. Now, they put their practice in. And, you know, but I think the thing is not to sort of say to our kids, if you don't practice, you're not going to get any better, because that's like, oh, practice is really crappy and boring. And it's the sort of, you know, it's, have you tried that yet? Or did you manage to get that song out? Or, oh my God, I can hear you're making progress. That's so cool. I can recognize that. You're doing so well. So it's just changing the language and letting them understand that the whole point about success is it comes with failure. And you sort of even say to him, you probably don't remember when you were trying to learn to walk. And he'll sort of go, well, no. And you said, you kept on falling over.
Yeah.
And you had to side of the sofa or the coffee table, and you wobbled and you landed on your bum. I'm so glad you had a nappy on, because otherwise you would have had bruises on that. But you got up and you kept going and you tried, and you just knew that you'd be good at this, and you just knew you'd be able to do it, but you did sort of fall over a bit. And this is what happens when we learn something new. And when you were learning to talk, you didn't suddenly say, Mum, will you pass the cornflakes? Did you? You started off with ma, da, da. And so it's teaching them that they actually have to practice and hear what's going wrong so they can experience it. And the part of going wrong is all about learning how to do things right. So I think we have to tell kids there is absolutely no such thing as failure. It's just feedback. And it's learning that we do things in order to how not to do it. You know, we say this to people in sales.
I was going to say, isn't this liberating? You know, even as a business owner, I'm a big believer in pre-frame and pre-framing, and in coaching as well. It's like we actually get the opportunity to give our kids, to consciously use our language to best support them to become who they can be, without our limiting beliefs or our, like, you know, when you say even to your husband, why don't you da 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 da? And it's almost the worst way to influence someone else, because, and including yourself, like, I should get up now, or why don't I just go on and do that thing? Because you're going to say that and your brain's going to go, well, here's why not, here's why I don't. Your brain's going to answer that question, because the brain is a solution looking for questions, right? It's like a problem looking for answers all the time. So I think this is so brilliant. And what I'm hearing you say is that I can sit with you just 5 minutes before his lesson and kind of warn him that things are going to come up where he feels like he might not be able to do this. But there was a time where he couldn't draw, there was a time where he couldn't talk, there was a time where he couldn't walk. And instead of spouting out a full sentence or running down the road, he fell over a lot. And that's normal. And I just feel that that's almost like this missing key, because this idea that we can silence the inner critic is almost a misnomer, is what I'm hearing you say. It's just part of life. We have to learn how to work with it, and how to kind of almost get the head start on it
and embrace it, and basically going, oh, thank you, but I've got this. And even if you sort of say to him, you know, I have learned how to drive, but when I sat down in the car, I didn't know where my hands should be. I didn't know. I mean, I remember when the driving instructor literally straight out the gates, and he said, handed me the keys, and I went, you don't mean I've got to drive it now? And he just looked at me and he said, if I sit here when you're in the passenger seat and explain to you what driving is, you're like, no, never going to get out of the passenger seat. So you're going to stall. I've got some pedals as well, so you're not going to crash. But it's a way of teaching. And I think it's explaining to our kids, and actually reminding ourselves, that we need to, I mean, I think if we sort of show our kids that this is where I failed, and I'm still
seven times my driving test.
There you are. There you are. And so it is a matter of explaining to our kids, I can't get it. I didn't get it right first time. And look, and it's okay. And you know, some people are faster at learning things. Some people are faster at doing different things. And some of us just like to work it out because that's how our brain works, and it's just wired slightly differently. So, you know, one child might be sort of exceptional at drawing, and another child might be, I don't want to, so then don't do it. Yeah. You know, it's allowing ourselves the space to, fail. Yeah.
Mission to fail, freedom to fail. I love that.
And invariably we don't, do we? We just sort of muddle along and we do okay. And I sort of, you know, when we're talking about business, I still sometimes take it so incredibly seriously, and I've got a launch coming up, and have I got everything in place? And do you know what the most successful ones are? When you just sort of think, oh well, I think I'm doing okay. I'm just going to wing it, and I'll sort of tighten it up as I go along. And that's how we learn. So the next time we do it is, oh, there's a pitfall there, watch out for it. Or actually, I didn't need to put all that effort into making this fantastic, whatever, because no one even paid any attention to it. And it's sort of just trying things out and acknowledging that life never goes according to plan. So we need to accept that we're not going to get it right. And even though this little inner critic is, who do you think you are? Do you really think you're going out in that? What do you think about that? Are you serious? Who's going to listen to you? Why? And it's just be quiet, you know, because a lot of the things we worry about don't even happen. So it's the what ifs and the should haves and the musts. And it's just something that we need to just sort of put a stop on all that. And just acknowledge that we are fallible, and that's actually quite all right.
And that we can accept ourselves. So that silencing the inner critic is about going, you're right, I probably am going to fail, and rather than having a load of shame on that, going, and that's okay, that it's okay that I'm feeling that, or it's okay that I'm worried of that. And the failure is an event. It's not a person. It's not who I am. And you were talking.
It doesn't define us.
That beautiful differentiation between self-worth and confidence. Like, you can have high self-worth by not identifying with the failure. And then you can also not have confidence in an area yet, but it doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just, you may fail over and over at this, and that's okay.
You're quite, and I keep on saying, I keep on saying to myself, the universe has my back. I am supported, I am loved. And I say that, I remind myself that things are happening for me. And I didn't get the A-level grades that I wanted, so I didn't go and read maths at St Andrews. That was my plan. Imagine what would have happened there. And so I went elsewhere, and so that's where I met the love of my life, and I married him. And so had I gone to maths to do maths at St Andrews, Lord knows what would have happened. It doesn't really matter, because it didn't happen anyway. But there was me thinking, I'm rubbish, I can't do exams, I'm crap at maths, I'm such a bad person, I've let my family down, I'm not going to, all that. And it was just like, what a waste of my education. Oh, well, that was a big one, thanks, Kai. But it's when you sort of suddenly, and so it's learning that things happen for a reason, and maybe the universe has a bigger plan. So maybe, you know, I thank goodness I didn't go and do maths, for goodness sake. I can't see any reason, you know, why I would want to have done it in the first place, but there you are. And it's just that sometimes we're steered, and sometimes we just have to trust and surrender, and just acknowledge that there is a plan for us, and we can't manufacture everything that's going on. We can't manipulate everything, because when we try and do, that's the expectations, and that's when we sometimes crash and burn.
Yes. Okay, so wrapping up, this has been so good. There's so many takeaways. And if you're watching, feel free to put a question in for Kai in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, you know, let us know what your takeaways are, and how you'll be using this information. Because I think with Kai's work, one of the things I've found, Kai, very much is your things are so simple, and it's easy to just go, oh yeah, right, I'll do that. But then it's when you implement them, they are powerful. And they really are powerful. They work. And I can say that firsthand with my growing kids, you know, and it's challenging. I feel like I'm out of my depth, because I've just entered this new stage of parenting where 9 and 7, you know, they're not little kids anymore. Duke's 8 this summer, and they're entering into a new stage where there's more pushback, or there's more things to navigate. There's more emotions. They're asking different questions, and having the tools is so important. That's what I'm learning. It can be the difference between harmony at home, and a really enjoyable environment, and a stressful, disharmonious environment that is just so challenging and stressful for everyone.
Well, I've got, there's a handout, and we'll put the link in the description, and it's kaibrown.com/inner-critic, and it's inside that, and I'll run through a couple of the examples. Inside that is, how do I do that? It's all very well saying, oh yeah, she's talking a lot of sense, but come on, you know, we need to get the tools. We need to know how to do it. The first thing that I sort of say to kids and especially teenagers, it's the language that I use, but it's challenge that inner thought, challenge what's going on. And, you know, it's sort of, you know, one guy was sort of sitting there and he was going on and said, I'm rubbish at this and I can't do that and my mates think this and I just went, no, challenge it. So what do you mean? And I went, okay, here you go. When that inner critic starts talking, you just go, dude, really? And he went, oh yeah, I can do that. And I just literally just stop that voice in its tracks and go, mate, seriously? Are you having a laugh? Because it's a bit like when you sort of challenge a bully. When you challenge a bully, they step down. So when you challenge that inner critic and it's going, mate, seriously? And you just sort of say, is that true? Where's the that I'm sort of awful and sort of whatever, and it's really you really are. Oh, okay, well, you're a fantastic grandson, or you're a brilliant son, or you're fantastic at cricket, or you're such a great mate, or you know, and it's sort of, you know, let's go back to the music, to sort of, you know, the reminding your darling boy is, well, this is going to be your first time. Do you see any other of the families giving this a go? Do you see any of us sort of wanting to, you know, well done you, you're going to have one lesson on your belt and you're going to be a better piano player than the rest of us. So go you. And so it's just spinning all that. And it's sort of, well, I'm going to be rubbish. Well, of course you are, because you're a beginner. That's what beginners do. They start at the bottom. And, you know, and so it's just teaching ourselves and our kids that's absolutely all right, but don't, you know, just challenge that negativity, challenge what is going on, because it's not always true, but we believe it and we act because of it, and that's just not fair.
And we all have one, we all have it in our heads. There's no one who's free from that. It's just people that have learned to manage it and not on.
And there will be another one I would say is just because. So they can sort of do the just because I had a rubbish piano lesson, just because I feel as though I've gained weight, just because I've got hair like a banshee, just whatever it is, just because I feel, I've got rubbish lockdown hair, doesn't mean that I don't have a message to share. Just because I look like this doesn't mean I'm going to look better next week. Just because I feel crap about myself doesn't mean that actually I'm quite nice and you know, I'm a good,
doesn't mean I'm worthless, or it doesn't, just because I feel this way today, it doesn't mean I'm
just because I'm a beginner at piano doesn't mean in 2 or 3 weeks or months I can't be blimmin' brilliant. Just because I don't doing doesn't mean I can't learn a tune in 3 weeks, you know. And it's okay. And the thing is we sort of, another word which is, you know, a little phrase, when we want our kids to talk to us, and so we need to validate how they're feeling. None of the, oh, you'll be fine, no, it's fine, no, it's no, because we are automatically negating what their fears are, and that doesn't help. So they come up with their fear and you go, yeah, of course. And they go, phew, oh my God, that's all right. And you go, yeah, of course you're going to be rubbish at golf. This is the first time you've picked up a club, love. You know, and actually it's quite a long walk for, you know, for a 7-year-old or whatever. Of course. And then it's but here we are, and we, you know, you're going to learn, and but actually negates everything. So, and you're going to be improving, and you've got a fantastic teacher, and you are so creative that you are, you know, you pick things up really quickly. And I can't wait that, you know, come Christmas we might be able to sing some carols and you'll be able to play, you know, whatever it is. And it's just, so it's just because and of course, and that sort of it takes the pressure off, and it sort of, it allows kids to realize, oh yeah, this is normal, and getting things wrong is normal, and that's allowed. So that really helps as well.
Oh, I can feel my shoulders dropping an inch, Kai. I can't wait to have this conversation with you now tonight, and I hope this has been helpful for other mothers, because I think this is an opening time, a rebirth time for a lot of people, getting back to life, getting back to lessons, getting back to creative pursuits, perhaps starting something new. So it's really helpful, not just for our kids, but for us, I think, right now, to remember these tools.
Exactly. Well, listen, and I know you'll know this book, and this, forgive me, I mean, ripe old age of 56. This book has been sitting on my shelf for, I can't begin to tell you, but it's the 4 agreements. And the first agreement, which is really, I mean, I literally started reading it this morning, and I was just basically sort of said to the universe, yeah, okay, you're having a laugh, aren't you? Because the first agreement is, and I'm just going to read from the flyleaf: be impeccable with your word. It says, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. And I don't mean just your spoken word, it's your thinking word as well. It's the thoughts in your head. And this is for our kids and for ourselves, because our thoughts become actions. And that's where we need to go, dude, really? When we hear that voice. So accept that we are going to get that negativity, but allow yourself that luxury of being able to challenge that voice and go, no, I'm going to be impeccable in my word. I am going to accept this first agreement. I am going to be kind to myself, because when we radiate that with love. We radiate that the light from within glows outwards, and we are setting a fine example for our children to embrace the messiness of ourselves.
Oh, Cais, so good. I love it. It's just speaking straight to my heart, and can feel my system really resetting as you talk. And I really do want to intend that this recording meets anyone that needs to hear this right now. It's so beautiful. Could you please remind me of the URL where people can download their
well, it's in the description, but it's caigraham.com/inner-critic. So
caigraham.com/inner-critic, and it's a complimentary download where people
yeah.
And
it is, and all these things are child friendly, so that they're written in a way that kids can understand, and it just really helps. I might actually put another one as well. There's another one called Changing Pictures, so I'll put that in as well. And it's just it just helps us change that rubbish that's going on in our heads, and we can look at it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, so if anyone's just listening to this on the audio, that would be www.caigraham.com/changing pictures.
All one word, I think. Yes.
That sounds great. Yeah. All right.
Well, but it'll be in the
to link it. Yeah. Cais, as ever, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. I know that you're live. Oh yeah, so lovely. You're live on the Eden Room with us every 2 weeks at 1 o'clock. So if people want to send in their questions, they can. If there's particular topics that you're keen for Cais to talk about, if there's something you're struggling with in your home, if there's a source of frustration and disharmony and stress in your family, let us know. There's no shame in that.
Because sometimes it's just tiny tweaks that can make a massive difference.
I've seen that,
of course.
Yeah, and I think the biggest step that you can take, and the hardest one often, is that reaching out for help. And you've got someone here who's an expert who's not going to judge you. Just reach out to the Eden Room, or reach out to Cais direct, and let us know. We don't have to share. You can stay anonymous. We can just sort of present your question and discuss it.
Yes, I think I think that works for a lot of parents, is the fact that they don't want to be sort of mentioned, because it's about your kids, and it makes you feel as though
it's very vulnerable and sensitive. It's an intimate part of our lives, and I think sometimes it's a part of our lives to ask for and accept help in, because we think we should have it all sussed out. But the truth is, these kids don't come with a manual, and most people spend more time figuring out how to use their computers than parent their children.
Well, you're quite, and in my Facebook group, I literally last night I did an anonymous video. It was a question for someone else, from someone else, and I just said, a mum says, and it's amazing because the comments from all the other parents, oh, thank goodness, it's me as well, been there, done that, and thanks for asking the question, because we're all in the same boat, and yet we sort of hold back because we don't want to ask these things. And when someone is brave enough to do, even under the anonymity, it's quite, everyone else breathes that collective sigh of relief, and they go, oh, thank goodness I'm not alone. And that is so important. So yeah, it really helps.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cais. We'll see you again in a fortnight, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on the Eden Room soon. Much love, everyone.